Hello and welcome to this Swift tutorial, and in this video we are going to continue on a series that we started in the previous video where we created our very own QR code generator. So in that video we generated some codes, and in this one we want to be able to read them. So not only generate but also read. So that's what we are going to be taking a look at in this video. So if you want to make your very own trusted QR code reader, then this is the video for you, and let's get started. So what we do is we start by creating our very own Xcode project like we always do. This is also going to be a single view application, nothing special here, and I'm going to call this QR reader. Then I'm just going to save it on my desktop, put this in full screen, and really we don't need much on our storyboard. We can actually wait with our storyboard. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to head over to our info.plist, because this video is going to involve us using the camera of our user's iPhone. And in order to do that, we should ask for permission. So let's click on plus wherever you want to click on plus. And then we are going to write privacy, and we're going to set camera usage description. So this is the description that will pop up asking the user if we are able to use their camera, and we can just write can I use the camera and then question mark, and that will do for now. So now we're asking the user for permission, and after we've done that we can get to our code. Now what we want to do here is we first of all want to import some stuff. We want to import our AV foundation, which simply stands for Audio Video Foundation. So that is now imported, and we also want to add some delegates here. So that's what we're just going to do. Let's get that over with so that we already have that in place. We can simply say AV capture meta data output objects delegate. So this is a delegate that we are going to use in our code. So we just import or add that delegate for now. And then we can also start by creating our very own and first variable, which is going to be a variable named video, which is going to contain our AV capture video preview layer. So what this layer is basically going to contain is our video. So we want to display some video to our user, and this variable is going to contain that display, that video that we then can show to the user, so that when the user wants to scan for a barcode, he can actually see what the camera is pointing at, which isn't a bad idea. So that's why we are creating that variable. And after having created that, we can actually start creating the session based on that video layer. So now we want to create our video session, and we do that in our view.load. And the way we do that is we simply create a session. Let's see, session is equal to AV capture session. There we go. This is just going to be an empty capture session for now. Let's see, I'm just going to comment here, creating session, pretty obvious by now, but we are also, the second step now is going to define capture device. So this is the device that's going to capture the audio that we then can display. And of course the device that is going to capture this video is the phone or the tablet that the user is holding. And we define that by saying let capture device, which is going to be our capture device constant, AV capture device dot default device. Let's see if I can find it here. Default device with media type, and the media that we want is AV media type video. This is the one we want to go for. We want some awesome video, so let's choose that one. Now our next step is going to, so we now have a session, a video session, which doesn't contain anything. So now we want to take the output from our camera. So we have now registered our camera as the as our capture device, and we now want to take that output from that capture device and put it into our session, so that we have something to work with, so that we have some material to work with. And that's what we're going to do now, is we're going to try to add the capture device to our session, or the the input for our session is going to come from our capture device. Hopefully that makes sense. So in order to do that, we are going to need a do and also a catch, because this is going to involve us trying something. It might not work, but has a high probability of doing so, but we do need a try. So we're going to define our input, which is going to come from our AV capture device input. Let's see, AV capture device input, and this input we are going to take from our capture device that we defined above. So simply saying capture device. So we're now taking the result from our capture device and storing it in our input constant, and now we're going to add that input to our session. So session dot add input, and the input that we want is the one that we defined above. So hopefully everything makes sense up until now. We simply define our input, which is what we get from our capture device, our camera, and we add that input to our session. If that doesn't work, we can simply print error, but no worries here, that will most likely work. So now we have provided our session with some input, and now of course from that session we want to gain some output so that we can recognize a QR code, and we define it in a very simple way. We simply say let output, so almost the same way as we defined our input. We simply say let output is equal to AV capture capture meta output, metadata, however you want to pronounce that, output. So here we have our output, and we are going to add that to our session. Again, session dot add output, and the output that we want to add is the one we just defined. There we go. And the next step is going to be to define the queue where our output is going to be processed. Now what this means is really not too important. All you need to concern yourself with is that we need to process the output that we get from our session. And the best way to do that, the most optimal way to do that, is to process this on the main thread. This will give us the best performance results. So that's why we are going to set the queue that's going to handle our output to be the main queue. And the way we do that is we say output.set meta objects delegate. We're going to use this one, and we're going to simply set self here, and then the queue, which is the important part here, is going to be our dispatch queue, and it's going to be the main one. Then we're going to define the type of output that we want. So we simply say output dot meta data object types, and we want it as AV meta data object QR code. Let's see if I can find it. Metadata object type QR code. So we're basically saying that we want only the QR code output. Now here you can define what type of results you want, because output simply means it takes everything worthwhile from our session, our video capturing session, and gives it to us. Here we can then specify what type of output that we are interested in. Now here you can also define barcodes or whatever you want to. You can also define faces, which I probably am going to make a video about. But in this video we are only interested in recognizing QR codes, and that is why we're defining it here, so that we only stick to QR codes. So we have defined that here now, that we are only interested in QR codes, and then we can give a video representation of our session. So our session is now working in the background, but now we want to show the user that through a video capture. So we simply say video, which was the variable we defined up here, is equal to AV AV capture video preview layer, and it's going to be based on the session that we have already defined, which is our normal plain session. Then we're going to set the frames of this video. Frame is equal to view dot layer dot bounce. So we're simply saying that the video layer is going to fill the whole screen, and then we are going to add this layer to our view. So view.layer.add sublayer, and we can now add it by adding our video layer. So now we have given our user a representation of basically the whole screen is now filled with an audio provided by the camera. And now we can start the video capture by simply saying session dot start running. So now we have created basically the whole session, and I am going to briefly cover it now, what we're doing. Now we are not processing the QR codes yet, we are only detecting them. So keep that in mind, we're going to add something to this later. So first of all, we are creating a AV capture session, which is basically our session that's going to take our input and convert it to an output. Then we're defining the capture device that's going to make all of this possible, the capture device that's going to provide us with our input for the session. Then we are defining an input constant, and we are saying that we want our input for our session from our capture device named, so this capture device defined above here. And then we're adding the output from this capture device as the input for our session. So we're providing our session with raw data, raw materials provided to us by the camera or the capture device. Then we are defining an output that is going to come out of our session. And we can here say that we want that output processed on the main queue, and we are only interested in the objects that are of type QR code. Now here you can define other things like AV metadata object, let's see, metadata object type, and here you can also select face, as you can see. So here you can start with face recognition, but right now we're just going to concern ourselves with QR codes. Then we are creating a video representation of what we're doing here, which is basically showing what we are filming and what our session is processing as the input. So wherever we point our device, that is going to be basically the video. So let's try to run our application, and see what we've got so far. I'm just going to select my iPhone here, OS version lower than deployment targets. I'm just going to have to change the deployment target to 10, and that will basically do, I suppose. So let's run it on my iPhone and see what we've got. So as you can see, I'm now being asked to give permission for the use of my camera, and I'm just going to set that to OK, why not? And then as you can see, I'm now able to film everything perfectly well. So we now have the video representation of our session, and the next step is going to be able to recognize a QR code. So here I have a QR code on my screen, and I want to recognize that when I point it towards. Now the session is already providing this as the output, but we aren't processing it or doing something with it yet. So that is what we are going to do right now. So let's set that on pause, and I'm going to jump over to our view controller, and we are going to start processing that output that we're getting from our session. And in order to do that, we are going to utilize a function named capture output, which is simply the output from our capture session. So let's get some more space here. And here we can do whatever we want to. And what we want to do is we want to process the output that we are getting. This function is called whenever we have some output, and it's going to be provided to us in the form of an array named metadata objects. And this is of type any. So we are first of all going to check if we have something in that nice array. So you can say if meta objects is not equal to nil, and we're also going to check if meta objects dot count is not equal to nil. So here we're basically checking if we have something to process or to continue on investigating. And if we do, we are going to process it a bit further. We're going to use another if statement. If let object, so we're going to name our constant object, is equal to meta objects. We're going to use that one, and we're going to take the first element in the array, and we're going to try to cast it to an AV metadata machine readable code object. Now that's an advanced name, but we really don't need to concern ourselves with that. We're simply trying to cast it to that in order to be able to process it further. Now now that we have it as an object, we can now check if the type of that object is actually a QR code. And that's what we're going to do now. I first have to correct this error here. That should disappear, and it does. Beautiful. So now we're going to check if our object dot type is equal to an AV meta. Let's see, object type QR code. So we're basically checking if what we have is a QR code, because that is really what we're interested in at this time. And then we can do whatever we want with it, because now we have a QR code. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that QR code and present it in the form of an alert. So here we're going to simply create an alert that we have done a couple of times by now if you have followed the other videos. And the way we do that is we simply say let alert is equal to UI alert controller. And this is going to contain a title, which is going to be, can be whatever you want to, QR code, for example. And the message can then be the string value that is contained within the QR code. So this can be a URL or whatever you have embedded in it. I'm simply going to present it as the message of this alert. So object dot string value. So we're extracting the data from the QR code and presenting it as a completely normal readable string value. And then we can set the preferred style, and I'm simply going to use the default alert one. And then I'm going to add an action, alert.add action. And the first action is going to be to retake. Let's see, first I need to say UI alert action. And that is going to consist of a title. And the first, I'm going to give my user two options, either to retake the QR code or to go ahead with it and copy it to their clipboard. So the first one is simply going to be retake. The style is going to be default. And handler, I don't need anything here really. I just want to hide the alert, and it does that by default. And I'm going to add another action here, which is going to be let's see, UI alert action, and this one is going to contain the title copy to clipboard. The style is going to be the default one, but then we start to get a bit funky here, because here we simply want to copy it to the clipboard, and we really don't need this one, so we simply set that to nil. The only thing that we're interested in is saying UI pasteboard dot general dot string, and we're going to set that to be equal to the object dot string value. And I see I have a bit of red here, but that is probably because we need another one of these and also one of these right here, and we should be good to go. Let's see if we indeed are. Yep, we are, and that's awesome. And then we are simply going to present our alert down here. Present, and let's see, present, not a present, but present alert. It doesn't want to help me with auto suggest. Okay, there we go, true. And then we also need a completion, which we are going to say nil to. And now we actually should be good to go with this application. So let's just take a look at what we're doing here to make it absolutely clear. Of course, this we have been through. We have our output, and each time we get a new output, we are running this function. First of all, we are checking if we actually have something. Do we have something that is worth noticing here? I see I have a little error here. If count is not equal to nil. Now this should work better. We're checking if we actually have something. Then we're trying to cast it to a machine readable code object. And then we're checking if the type is of type QR code, which is what we're interested in this video. And if it indeed is, then we are going to display it as an alert. We're going to display the message, the string value of our QR code as a message of the alert. And then we're going to give the user two options, either to retake or to copy it. Now, what I want to do in order to be a little bit fancy here, and this is necessary, but I just want to give my user a little bit of an aim. I'm going to add an image view that I'm simply going to place upon our nice looking plane I would say, storyboard. And I'm just going to place it somewhere in the middle and make sure that it is a perfect square. So let's just set it to 250 times, actually I'm going to give it 320. I think that's going to be better. Then we're going to have a larger aim, and I'm just going to lock in the width and the height of this. Let's see, I'm going to lock in the width and the height like this to 320 each, and then I'm going to center it horizontally and vertically in container. And then I'm going to use a nice looking, beautifully created image that I have here of a orange square. Now this is simply going to provide our user with an aim so that he can see if the QR code is within the screen. Finish. And all we then do is we set the image of this image view to be equal to the square, just like that. And then we bring up our split view and we control drag. So we select our image view and we hold down control and drag it into our code. And I'm just going to name this square. Nice and easy. And then I'm going to present it right here. After adding the video sublayer, we're simply going to say self.view.bring. Bring subview to front, and this view that we want to bring to front is our square image. So now we are going to run this hopefully working application. Of course it works. I mean, and then we're going to check if this if it is performing up to our standards. So now I am launching it on my phone, and I'm going to try to scan 2 images that I have, 2 QR codes that I have. And we're going to check if it performs and decodes a message that I have hidden inside them. So let's see how this is all going to unfold. So now you should see a representation of my screen here. I'm filming around. This box could be a bit smaller, but again, it does the job. As you can see, it's very fast. So it already took the first one. Let's try one more time. This is my first QR code. Hello world, that is the correct one. And then I'm going to take the second code, which should say http, come on, http://theswiftguy.com, and that is what I indeed encoded that QR code with. So that is all there is to a QR code reader. Hopefully you enjoyed this video and were able to, first of all, create some of your own QR codes, and then second of all, with this application that we just created, also be able to read them. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure that you click the subscribe button down below, and then I will be seeing you in the next video. Thank you for watching.